fight selectively to demonstrate to the Democrats what we can do so that we can hopefully be a part of the system rather than run over like a freight train. And I have to say, I know there have been a lot of people very critical of Arlen Specter, and I have difficulties with Arlen all the time. But Arlen came through and changed his vote on card check, which is a huge vote. That gives us the 41st vote to stop card check. And I don't know how many of you are aware of card check. But card check is something the unions didn't want when unionization was started, because card check says you merely have to get the signature of an employee on a card to tell them you want to unionize, and you get 51% of the cards, then you can unionize without the other 49% even knowing about it. It also says the National Labor Relations Board will negotiate your contract if you can't get an agreement within 60 days, which basically means the federal government setting salaries. It would be the last nail in the economic coffin that we're already in right now with a difficult economy. Yeah. And Arlen a year ago had voted for it. He changed his vote. And that one change means we have stopped card check. And believe me, that will be the greatest victory of the year if we're able to continue to do it. I know we've got a lot of people here that are in business today, and there are a lot of people in businesses that have unions, and unions are fine, but it's not right to take away the secret ballot from an individual. It is not right. Employees don't deserve to be harassed by management or by the union. They should make up their own mind and be free to do it and exercise it in the secret ballot, just like you and I do when we vote for president, vice president, governor, and everybody else. So there are some rays of good news out there in an otherwise gloomy horizon. The other thing I will say is I was disappointed that the administration decided to stop using the term war on terror. I think that was one of those, I don't know what it was. I guess it was to make somebody feel good on the left, or maybe the pink ladies that are always protesting my office, that make somebody feel good on the left. But fortunately, the president has made the commitment to send the additional troops to Afghanistan, and I applaud that, and I applaud him for keeping Secretary Gates and, quite frankly, Marine General Jim Jones. I think the president realized when he got his first security briefing after the election what we were up against, and I appreciate and acknowledge the fact that he's done that. Our men and women are doing a miraculous job. They'll never give Bush the credit. They'll never acknowledge it, talking about the Democrats, but they'll never say it, but I will. When we went into Iraq, the president made a speech 3 times before the United Nations, begging the United Nations to follow through on what they'd all voted for, 170 to nothing. They said if Saddam Hussein doesn't give up the weapons of mass destruction and let us verify them, we're going in. And then when Saddam Hussein didn't, the UN blinked. And the president went 3 times and spoke and said, if you don't, we will, and finally we did. And when we went in, he had a clear agenda, and this was it. I've got the speech on my desk in Washington. He said, number 1, we're going to depose Saddam Hussein. Number 2, and find the weapons of mass destruction. Number 2, we're going to allow the people of Iraq to hold free elections and write their own constitution. And number 3, we're going to train their police force and their military so they can protect themselves. We did depose Saddam Hussein. Now everybody's going to say, yeah, but there were no weapons of mass destruction. Let me tell you, there are 12,000 dead Kurds and graves from gas that Saddam Hussein used. We found all of the component parts of centrifuges for the development of nuclear fissionable material. We found 4 of the 7 mobile biological laboratories they used against the Kurds to mix the gas and the biological agents to kill the people. We just didn't find a smoking gun. We found all the pieces of the gun, and that was good enough for me. Second, the people of Iraq had free elections. They elected democratically their own people. For the first time ever, women voted, and for the first time ever, they got elected. And they wrote a constitution, and they elected a president. And now the United States is withdrawing their troops, not because we're leaving, but because we won. Not because the Iraqi people are in prison, the Iraqi people are free. And we accomplished the 3 stated goals that we established to accomplish. So the president deserves the credit for having done that. And we now have Al-Qaeda pinned up. I mean, there are a lot of people that said wasn't any Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Well, that's a bunch of hooey. They were all over the place. They were in North Africa, in Somalia. They were in the Sudan, they were in Afghanistan, they were in Iraq, and they were in the United States of America, 19 of them. That's when they hijacked the airplanes and killed us. Now they're basically on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and I was on that border in August. And our troops are fighting an unbelievable war in the most unbelievable terrain you can ever see, and it's pretty much special operations battles. It's 12-man units of U.S. SEALs and special ops troops going up against small, well-armed group of Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But we're winning. And as much as Pakistan is unstable and tenuous and difficult, Pakistan has allowed, they've complained publicly for their own political reasons, that they have been cooperative in letting us surgically send strikes into Afghanistan, into Pakistan, and take out the known Al-Qaeda leadership. As long as that continues, I am convinced with the additional troops that we're sending in, and that manpower, plus the 4,000 we're using to train the Afghani police, that we will do in Afghanistan what we've done in Iraq. And that was, we will depose, if you will, Al-Qaeda and the terrorists, but they'll go somewhere else. I mean, as long as I live, as long as my children are alive, as long as my grandchildren are alive, the threat of terror will always be there. Once that genie got out of the bottle on 9/11/2001, you can't ever put it back in. But if you don't recognize you're in a war on terror and you blink and look the other way, that's what they'll take advantage of. And as long as I'm in the United States Senate, I'm going to try and do everything I can to keep our military strong and empowered, our intelligence strong and empowered, our law enforcement strong and empowered, and I'm going to continue to fight the war on terror because it exists whether you change the name or not. Now,